commercial spaceflight companies, no doubt in my mind. Now, who will be ready to compete for what we need in Phase 2? I believe that you need to ask the companies. From a NASA standpoint, we believe that industry will be ready. We believe that there'll be more than one, probably 2, 3, maybe others that will be ready to compete for Phase 2. But all 4 companies here today are capable and are the leading edge of what it takes to get folks back into low Earth orbit over time.
And a follow-up question to the partners. How does Russians flying American astronauts motivate your company or provide any type of motivation to what you're doing? I think SpaceX answered it.
I could not specifically about the Russians. The lack of a U.S. capability is something, obviously, that we're not happy about. I had Russian partners with me up on the space station, and the partnership is very strong on the ISS side. But I think to be a true partner in the space station, to be an equal partner, we need to come to the table with our own ability to get there, and we don't have that right now. And the fact that we're paying a lot of money, a lot of taxpayer money to the Russians to do that, I think it's $63 million a seat is what we're paying right now to fly U.S. astronauts up to the space station on the Soyuz. When we could be spending that money here in the U.S., yeah, that motivates us.
I think from our perspective, that was the original motivation for us getting into this, was that our belief was that we not only need a U.S. spaceflight program, but from our perspective that the idea of creating American jobs in American industry and moving forward, not just the hardware and the people, but the future of our children who are looking towards what they want to do with their future and how they want to educate. We believe that that's a strong motivation for what we wanted to accomplish. Our target was never other NASA programs or other programs in the United States. Our target was to repatriate that industry back here to the United States, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I'd reiterate, I think it's really emotionally and also strategically important that this country is a spacefaring nation, and we're excited to get back to that point.
I'll just add, I think ISS is a great example of international cooperation. So working with countries all over the world is a positive, but if we want to explore the frontier, we have to have a way to get there, and we've got to drive our own vehicle, so to speak. So having that capability for America and for several commercial companies is a real positive. So.
All right, we're going to go to the Johnson Space Center phone bridge now for questions and begin with Irene Klotz. Irene, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we hear you fine, Irene. Go ahead.
Thanks very much. I have 3 quick questions. The first for Ed Mango, do you anticipate multiple awards for the Phase 2 of the program with flight tests? And for Garrett, if you could give us any update on the root cause of the Falcon 9 engine out. And for Mr. Meyerson, do you see any future on-road back to NASA funding for your company's efforts? Thank you.
See, I think I was first on there. Competition is key for anything that we do in the United States. That's how you get the best price. It's how you get the most innovation. So to answer your question, I very much want more than one company involved in Phase 2 because I think it's that competition and that innovation that helps drive all of industry in the right direction and as quickly and as safely as possible.
I guess that was part B, the engine thing? Okay. So we did have an engine anomaly on the last Falcon 9 flight. We had to shut down one of the 9 engines in the first stage. And right after the flight, we convened an investigation group to look at this in-flight anomaly. And that group consisted not only of SpaceX engineers, but also NASA engineers. It was a NASA mission, and so we had NASA participation on the investigation team. That team has worked really, really hard at looking at all the data. We had tons of data. All the sensors kept working after the anomaly occurred, so we had a real plethora of data to sort through, and NASA helped us out with that. And we've gotten to root cause, and we briefed that just before the holidays to our customer, which is Mr. Suffredini, the ISS program manager, and to Bill Gerstenmaier at the head of human spaceflight at NASA. And right now we're just making sure that they're happy that all of our I's are dotted and T's are crossed, but we do intend to make that information more widely disseminated very, very soon. So I'm sorry I'm leaving you with a bit of a cliffhanger, but I promise you we're going to get you more information on that soon.
Okay. And the third question was whether there's a future on-ramp for NASA funding in the future for a company like Blue Origin. I believe there is. I think during CCDEP2 and CCDEP1, we proved that we're a very innovative company that can provide a lot of value to the government. I think Ed and Phil have seen that firsthand, and the Commercial Crew team. Whether it's with Commercial Crew or other programs within NASA, we always are looking for activities where we can work with the government and help us to accelerate what we're trying to do commercially, and we'll continue to do that. So. I'm optimistic.
Okay, back to the phone bridge, and we have questions, I believe, from Alan Boyle from NBC. Alan?
Hi, can you hear me?
We hear you.
Okay, great. I was hoping to get more details from SpaceX and Garrett about the plans to fly, I think you said, a non-NASA crew by the end of 2015. Could you lay out what that plan would entail? Are these people who would be buying flights, or if you could provide a little more detail, I'd appreciate it.
Sure, I'd be happy to. That is part of our optional. So CCICAP has a base period, but we're also asked to produce a bunch of optional milestones. So all of us, all the partners up here, went ahead and submitted a proposal that was, assigned into a Space Act agreement that contained not only up to May 2014, but what we would do beyond that, getting all the way to the point of flying people to the space station. And so we laid out a plan with those milestones that gets us to flying the first test flight in the middle of 2015, and then flying to the space station at the end of 2015. That would be done with a test pilot crew. We were told that because this would be part of the development and prior to final certification, that we were not allowed to legally to use NASA astronauts to be part of that test pilot crew. So SpaceX, we're going to have company test pilots that would fly those missions, but it would be a minimum crew for these test flights. It would not be. We're not selling tickets. Don't call our toll-free number. Those are going to be test flights as part of the final development and test and certification process.
Alan, did you have a follow-up?
No, go ahead.
Alan, did you have a follow-up?
No, I didn't. Go ahead.
Thank you. Frank Mooring from Aviation Week.
Thank you. I have a two-part question. The first part for the NASA guys. Can you give me a sort of total figure for the percentage of support that NASA has given to the development of these three vehicles, I'll say, versus the amount of private funds that have gone in there? And then for the company guys, if you could say whether, given the tight budget environment that we're seeing here in Washington, whether or how much your companies would be able to take up any slack in case the roughly $850 million a year isn't forthcoming from Congress. Thank you.
Yeah, Frank. Generally, that is proprietary information. It's fairly sensitive how much the companies are putting in, so we don't publicize the percentage that the partners have contributed. We haven't in the past, and we're going to continue to maintain that policy going forward.
But I would add, not from a percentage standpoint, but every dollar that a company puts on the table in this partnership is one less dollar that the taxpayers need to put on the table. So, I'm not going to jump up and down about percentages as much as I would say the fact that it's a partnership and we both bring money to the table allows the taxpayer to get more for their dollar and allows the company to get more for their dollar. And that's what the partnership's all about.
Yeah, that really does provide what we've called skin in the game, and it is a key aspect of the partnership. Again, the percentage is interesting, but it's not. It's more of what the money represents. It represents a commitment on the part of the companies to bring forward some of their own financial resources for the development of these vehicles, and that is critical because we don't anticipate maintaining ownership of these vehicles. The companies are going to maintain the intellectual property, and they're going to own and operate these systems, and we think it's appropriate in that kind of situation for them to bring money to the table, which all of them are doing in pretty substantial fashion, even though we don't quote percentages.
And let's see, the second part of your question, Frank, I think asked about whether we companies would be willing to commit more if the NASA funding was lower than the $850 million request or plan. I'd say, when we look at our plan, I think we've put together a robust but affordable and aggressive. And whether the company really could contribute more, I think you have to wait and look at the true market assessment at that time and see how much the market has matured, and then look at the ability of your company to invest more and whether you could get a return. So I think you just really have to wait and look at the market emerging at that point.
I think from our perspective, we are contributing significantly to the program, and one of the things that a reduced budget would do is affect schedule, probably for all of us. And schedule is highly important here because we are targeting to get the most utilization out of the ISS as possible. So I think that the downside of this would be that while the program might maintain itself and we can continue to do the work that we're doing, it might take longer to get there. And that's going to have an effect on the really valuable work that's being done on the station.
So just to follow up, I guess this kind of the same thing. To try to speculate about what would happen should funding be less or different things occur with the federal budget. Life is vexing enough without entertaining hypotheticals. So I wouldn't go out on a limb and try to cover all the possible permutations of what might happen. But I can tell you that SpaceX, like I said, human spaceflight is our reason for being. We are in this for the long haul. There will be impacts to cost and schedule. It should funding dry up, but we're going to get there eventually.
Okay, next up is Dan Leone from Space News.
Hi, question for Ray at Blue Origin. Ray, would Blue Origin be interested in trying to get a CPC Phase 2 contract? Because those, I've been told very clearly that those are full and open competition, and that anybody who has a space transportation system that meets the requirements is welcome to apply. And of those who haven't gotten one already, I would say that Blue Origin probably the furthest along. Is that work that the company is interested in, or would you give that a pass?
I can't really say until I see the draft RFP, and that hasn't come out yet. So what I know about it is what I've seen today. So it's a little too early to say, Dan.
Any follow-up, Dan? Okay, let's move on to Mark Matthews from the Orlando Sentinel. Mark?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you, Mark.
All right, this question's for John, similar to the one that was posed to Garrett a little bit earlier today. Talking about that 2016 test flight. Would this also be a non-NASA crew? Would it be a NASA crew? What type of crew size are we looking at? Where would it go? Can I get some more details about what you guys are planning there? Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Part of the requirements of CCICAP was to culminate with a crewed flight test that had non-NASA crew. So, like Garrett, we have a crewed flight test planned. Ours is in 2016 with Boeing crew. There would be a 3-day flight demonstration test.
Okay. Next on the line is Tariq Malik from Space.com. Tariq?
Thank you. I also had a crew-related question for these new spacecraft. I'm just curious if each of the members of the panel could give us just a glimpse into your test pilot selection process? Do you have test pilots on staff? Garrett, I would imagine you'd be on that list for SpaceX. How are you training and merging that with the experience that you get from the astronauts that you work with as well? Thank you.
Well, I'll start. I mean, we have 2 former NASA astronauts on staff, and they help us in a lot of different areas, bring a very unique perspective. But I think the incremental development starting with suborbital allows you to really approach this in a different way.